Hello everyone, welcome to another online seminar presentation on Florida expanding Asian vegetable crops. We will now be discussing the vegetable crop long squash. Long squash, an Asian vegetable crop expanding in Florida. Long squash, or Lagenaria ciceraria, is a member of Cucurbitaceae, the cucumber family. The origins of long squash can be traced back to Africa, but some records also indicate Polynesia, or maybe even South America. Studies have suggested that long squash may have floated to Asia thousands of years ago, where it was then widely cultivated. It was an important crop in prehistoric Polynesia. Additionally, long squash may have been introduced to Polynesia from South America with the sweet potato by Polynesian voyagers in 1000 AD. The history of long squash is vast, having been domesticated roughly 10,000 years ago. It is eaten mainly in parts of Asia and is widely used medicinally in India. Although long squash is a novel vegetable in Florida, it can be traced back in the Americas thousands of years. Likely, the Paleo-Indian populations transported the long squash into the Americas. Having been grown in many locations over a long span of time, there are many common names for long squash. Other names for long squash include bottle gourd, long melon, opo squash, trumpet gourd, and calabash gourd. However, this vegetable is not to be confused with true calabash, which is a tree by the name Crescentia cujete. An image of the long squash fruit can be seen here on this slide. Long squash is a gourd, and gourds are an incredibly interesting group of crops. Gourds are likely one of the world's oldest cultivated crops, with fragments of a certain gourd being discovered in Egyptian tombs, which are estimated to be as old as 2300 BC. The popularity of gourds throughout the history of man can be attributed in part to its versatility. Many cultures around the world have used gourds as food as well as storage containers, spoons, bowls, and even musical instruments. Gourds, including long squash, are members of Cucurbitaceae. Other Florida emergent Asian vegetable crops that we have discussed are in this category. For instance, loofah. Loofah is actually one of the categories of the Cucurbitaceae family. The other two categories for this family are Cucurbita and Lagenaria. Long squash is a member of the Lagenaria group, hence its name, Lagenaria ciceraria. This group is variable in the size and in the shape of the gourds, but they do not vary much in terms of flower color and pollination. Lagenaria gourds possess white flowers that open at night and are pollinated by moths. Long squash is an herbaceous annual crop. The growth habit of long squash is a vine, with many fine hairs covering the surface of the vine, petioles, leaves, and even the young fruit. Long squash vines are tendril-bearing for support, and these vines can reach heights of 30 feet. The crop grows rapidly and vigorously. An image of this rapid growth can be seen pictured here. The flowers are monoecious, meaning there are separate male and female flowers. Additionally, the flowers are white with 5 ruffled petals. Commonly, long squash is propagated by direct seeding. The morphology of the seeds are that of other Asian land races. The seeds tend to be long, with a light gray-brown color to them. Similar to how the vegetative growth possesses pubescence, the seeds also have a covering of fine hairs. The benefit of growing from seed is that the cost of it is very low. However, there is a larger input needed for time and labor. Therefore, sometimes it can be beneficial to transplant long squash seedlings It's recommended to do this with seedlings that are 15 to 21 days old. Because long squash is a rapidly growing, tall vine, trellis support is highly recommended. Soils that are well drained, moist, and high in nutrients provide optimal growing conditions for long squash. This vegetable is a warm season vegetable, so growing in warm and sunny climates is important. Long squash can be damaged by high wind conditions. Proper pruning can facilitate early fruit set in that cutting the tips of the vines when the stems are 6 to 8 feet stimulates fruit set and development. Long squash is a newly emergent Florida crop and, as such, does not have any UF-IFAS nutrient recommendations. However, this crop is analogous to cucumber, so it is recommended to fertilize long squash with the IFAS recommendation for cucumber. Long squash is susceptible to numerous pests and diseases, especially those that target members of Cucurbitaceae. In particular, long squash has been shown to be affected by chlorotic curly stunt disease, and this is a severe pagomavirus disease of the genus Lagenaria. This virus is vectored by whiteflies, and plants that are infected show symptoms of being severely stunted in growth and having chlorotic and curled leaves. Another disease long squash is susceptible to is powdery mildew, and this is of concern for growth and production in Florida, because this disease can be exacerbated by hot and humid climates. Other diseases found to infect long squash are downy mildew, leaf blight, mosaic virus. Additionally, slugs and snails have been shown to be pests to long squash. This is primarily an issue when the plants are young. As the plant ages, it gets stronger and develops denser pubescence that is capable of deterring certain pests, such as slugs and snails. Long squash is most commonly grown to be consumed as a healthy vegetable. It is an excellent source of vitamin C, zinc, and potassium. Additionally, long squash contains healthy compounds such as triterpenoids and cucurbitacins B, D, G, H, and 22-deoxycucurbitacin. If growing for use as a vegetable, harvest this plant before it reaches maturity. This stage can be identified when the fruit has a light green skin color with white flesh. The mature fruit is unfortunately not edible. However, this does not mean that the mature fruit has no use. In fact, dried mature fruit of long squash can be used as water and food containers, musical instruments, and even fishing floats. While there are many uses for dried long squash, this can be a lengthy process and can take up to 6 months for the plant to fully dry. Seeds can also be harvested from the mature fruit, and these seeds contain about 45% oil. Because of this, the seeds of long squash can be pressed, and the extracted oil can be used for cooking. Agricultural uses include use as a rootstock. Long squash has been used as a rootstock for watermelon for the purposes of being fusarium wilt resistant. There are also numerous medicinal properties to long squash. This vegetable contains cardioprotective, cardiotonic, diuretic, and even aphrodisiac properties. It also has alternative purgative and cooling effects. Additionally, the fruit and seed extracts have been shown to have anti-cancer and antioxidant properties. This fruit has been ascribed with many therapeutic effects. Long squash has been shown to have anti-hyperlipidemic effects. In one phytochemical screening study, long squash extracts were shown to inhibit total cholesterol. Long squash also contains high levels of choline, which is necessary for some proper brain function. Cooking long squash is quick and simple. The first thing you have to do is remove the tops and bottoms from the vegetable. Then slice the long squash into fourths. After that, scoop out all the seeds from the inside of the long squash. The seeds are not edible, so we do not want to cook and eat them. Once the long squash has no seeds, it's time to cut it up into equally sized pieces. Because of its spongy texture, make sure to only lightly oil your pan. But once you do, heat it up and add the pieces of long squash to the pan. Stir the vegetable as it cooks and remove the heat when it is soft and tender. Long squash is best served warm. Here is a nutrient analysis of long squash per 100-gram serving. Here are some references and further readings. Visit the EATIS page on the Florida Emergent Asian Vegetable Crop long squash for some more information. This concludes our section on long squash. Thank you.